Hi, I'm John Sove, and this is Art and Design. Today, our guest is Nazarina Mwakasege. And Nazarina, I am so glad that you're here, and you are from the Ruth Ellis Center. What is your official title over at the center?
My official title as of the beginning of this year is Director of Development and Advancement at the Ruth Ellis Center.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been 4 years, like, as of the 16th. I'm so happy.
Well, on that note, um, before I get into your official role and all the good things that are going on at Ruth Ellis Center,
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about you and how you ended up
Oh.
in this position.
Oh! Ooh, I have to talk about myself. Okay, that's fine. So I have been a Michigander for the better part of 10 years. I came here for grad school, actually. I did a dual master's in social work and public health at the University of Michigan, go blue. And I did an internship for social work. It's one of the requirements of the program at one of the local community mental health organizations. And I had this really wonderful mentor, Eric Burris, and he told me that one day I would return to Detroit and I was most likely going to return to Detroit um, to work at the Ruth Ellis Center. I didn't really know much about the center at the time,
That's very
and
specific, though.
I didn't quite um, understand why. But I think at the time and in later conversations, he shared with me, he was like, you just have this passion for a variety of marginalized communities. And he was like, I just feel like that'll be a great space for you. And so 4 years after that conversation, I accepted an offer to join the Ruth Ellis Center in the development department, which translates to fundraising for a nonprofit. And I have been here ever since, and it's been my greatest honor.
Well, and I would say you've assimilated very well because when you walk in the door, you are it. You're the one, along with everyone else who comes out and welcomes everyone into the center. You belong. You fit in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That's that's something when you walk in and you know you're a part of it too. So,
Mm, thank you for that. I appreciate you.
well, now the thing is, you've got this new position. You've been
Yep.
there 4 years. We're celebrating 4 years.
Oh,
Tell us a
yes.
little bit about what is the Ruth Ellis Center and what is the mission.
Yeah, so our bread and butter is really about creating opportunities for LGBTQ young people so that they're feeling safe and supported no matter where they go. And really, what we've always been about is supporting young LGBTQ people who are facing barriers to housing security and health and wellness. And so that manifests into a couple of different ways. So, one of our largest programs, Behavior Health, where we have an integrated health like and wellness department, which is really incredible. We get to provide or have the great honor of providing these wonderfully skilled therapists, and we get to work alongside some amazing providers of care from the Henry Ford Health System. And together, they're able to come together. And when you talk about like, oh, what's integrated health? At least how it translates in our organization, your therapist and your doctor are besties and they talk about you all the time to ensure that they're able to provide a very sort of holistic sense of care. And so it's really about sort of enveloping our young people into as much support as possible when they're seeking out health and wellness resources. We also have a really incredible housing program. And so that manifests into a couple of ways as well. We have a permanent supportive housing space right down Woodward. If you ever find yourself driving towards downtown and you see some street called Claremont, if you look to your right, you'll see this gorgeous mural of Ruth Ellis and it adorns our building. And we house upwards of 43 young people in a collection of studio and one bedroom apartments. And when we say permanent, it is actually permanent supportive housing. And so they have care managers who work inside the building, and their goal is to work with the residents to make sure they're meeting whatever goals and whatever objectives they need so that when they do decide to move on, they absolutely can. Many of the residents there are not paying any rent, but they do have lease agreements and tenant agreements. And so when they are wanting to move on, they have a reference when we can attest to the sort of incredible persons that they were while they were living with us. We also have something called the Scattered Site Housing Program. So we have the really great honor of having relationships with some really incredible, affirming landlords who are vetted tirelessly by the organization to ensure that if our young people are going to be living in your environment, that you are a safe person and can provide a safe space for them. And then we have another housing program. It's called the Kelly Stowe Project. And that really focuses on supporting young transgender women of color with getting stable housing and staying that way, housing secure. So it's something that we're really, really proud of. Another really incredible program that we had, and really sort of our claim to fame as we began, because actually next year, I'm going to let you guys on in a little secret. We're going to be 25 next year, and we're going to celebrate the voices, but I'll get to that a little later. But when we first started, we were a 500 square foot space above an adult bookstore on Woodward and 6 Mile. And it was all about being a safe space and a place of respite for young LGBTQ people, a place where they could take a load off, if they needed to take a shower, if they just needed a quick meal, if they needed maybe a couple of meals and some support services. That's really where we began. Now we have the Health Equity and Outreach Department that manages our drop-in center, and you can do all of those things and more. So if you want to do some laundry, you can do that here. If you would like to check your email, if you'd like to further your education, if there are virtual certifications you've been interested in, if you want to follow up on a job application, you can do that here. If you're looking for gender affirming clothing, if you're looking for warm clothing, we have an expansive clothing closet provided by the incredible donors to this organization and many, many, many supporters. And our resource coordination team is able to make this space look like the most adorable boutique seasonally. It is a wonderful thing. We've got a dance floor. We've got a pool table. We even have a kitchen. We're going to be having some cooking classes soon, not only for the young people, but even for the staff. It's just a really, really wonderful space. And in that environment also, it also houses one of our favorite programs called Thriving Futures, which is really sort of an employment pathway program. And it's there to support young people who are looking to break into the workforce, but don't really know where to begin. So we're really excited about that space, and it's managed by Health Equity and Outreach. And I'm saying it over and over and over because it's a recent name change. We also have a program called Kofi House, which houses the Center for Lesbian, Queer Women and Girls. You can get all the services that you can get throughout the center and its different sites right there, but it's in a queer women affirming space, and it's right on Hazelwood. So we're housed in both Detroit and Highland Park. And then cognizant of the fact that we can't be everywhere, and we know that as much as we would love to support our community wherever they are, which is really all over the world, right? We know that we can't be everywhere. So we have this one department called the Ruth Ellis Institute, and they support us in really sort of reaching the gold standard with regard to what it means to provide care and affirm those in the LGBTQ community, but particularly young people. And so that manifests into a couple of different ways as well. A contract that the team recently earned with the state of Michigan is they are in the middle of training all 5,000 child welfare workers in the state, so that these workers are able to not only identify, but the idea is identifying these young people so that they are then placed in environments that are affirming and safe for them. And so We're just really lucky. We have an incredible evaluation team there as well. Claremont Center, our permanent supportive housing program, is something that's never been done before. And so in real time, we are evaluating how this is going for our young people. And all of that is housed in the Institute team. So that's a lot of bit about what we do here at the Ruth Ellis Center. But at its core, we're here to support LGBTQ young people, and we do it in a myriad of ways.
So, Nazarina, it's unbelievable. Any one of those topics that you just mentioned that are the mission of Ruth Ellis Center could be delved into for hours
Yeah,
because it's really amazing. But before we
thank
go on, who was Ruth Ellis and how did this all come about?
oh goodness. She was just a really incredible human being, and I'm happy that you asked me about her story because I love sharing it. So, Ruth Ellis is an African American woman. She was born in 1899 to formerly enslaved persons. Her father was the first Black mail carrier in the state of Illinois. And when she was 16, so this was 1915, with the help of a psychology book, she shared with her father her truth. She came out to her father and she told her father that, Dad, I like women. Now, you have to think about it. This is a young girl, African American. It's the turn of the century. You're like, I don't know if this is going to go well. Well, her father had a slightly different take. He said, well, during these days, if you got pregnant, I would have to kick you out of the house. He was like, because that's not a concern. All right. And from then on, Ruth Ellis was living her truth from when she was 16 years old. When she completed high school, she was doing some sort of like nursemaid jobs and supporting families with young children. And her brother said to her, you know, I think you do really well in Detroit. You'd make about 3 times as much. And so she said, all right, I guess I'll join you and I'll see what it's all about. She moved. He wasn't wrong, but soon she decided to change careers. She took up an apprenticeship with a screen printing company and eventually would open her own company in the basement of a home that she was able to buy. And still, I really want everyone to think really long and hard about this. This is the 30s and the 40s. An African American woman, not married, able to take on a career that could support her to a point where she was able to buy her own home and run her business out of her home. And in that home, she shared a space with her partner, Babe Ceciline Franklin, and they would be together for 35 years. Now, she worked really hard. She had this incredible fortune. And so, what she would also do, aside from running her business, she would provide a safe space for those sort of living at the margins. And at the time, when you're thinking about the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and even parts of the 60s, wasn't always an affirming space for a lot of different communities, those who identify as LGBTQ, those who may identify as African American or Black American, those who are disabled. There's a lot of different communities not feeling affirmed during these times. And her house became sort of not only the gay spot for a really great party, but she was also housing young people in the community, people who were just trying to finish school, but having hardships for a variety of reasons. Maybe they weren't living in an affirming space. People who were working and just needed a safe and stable roof over their heads. And that would become the inspiration. So our story and how that connects is in 1999, a 15-year-old boy came out to his family in Detroit and unfortunately was violently rejected. He ran away from home, and thankfully, he was routed to some elders in the community who, on Memorial Day weekend in 1999, got together, spoke with this young person, learned of their story, immediately knew there were other young people who were facing similar crises, They thought about their hopes and dreams and the kinds of things that they would have wanted, the kinds of resources they would have liked to have seen when they were coming of age. And that's started the Ruth Ellis Center. And given that Ruth had already had such a legacy of providing a safe space for people in our community, one of her really good friends, one of her co-founders, and also the associate director of behavioral health over at the center, Dr. Kofi Adoma, who also goes by Dr. A. Marie Robinson. She's an incredible PhD in psychology and also therapizes a lot of our young people. Um, spoke to Ruth Ellis and said, "Can we name this space after you?" To which she replied, "Yes." And at the age of 101, she was able to go up the stairs above this adult bookstore on Woodward and 6 Mile and cut the ribbon in what would be the first manifestation of the Ruth Ellis Center. Um, she would pass away a month later. And this is, back in 2000. And it has been our greatest honor to bear the name of such an incredible human being.
It's an amazing story,
Yeah,
and her passion and her legacy lives on. And now the 25th year, which is, I know you have a lot of different celebrations planned for next year.
yeah.
Can you share some of those?
Yeah, of course. So two of our flagship events, one of which is called Catfight for the Crown. So annually, we have a drag pageant to help us kick off Pride. It's usually done in the style of Miss America, but we're gonna throw in some twists and turns and some loops this next year. But it's usually an incredible time. Our friends at the Fillmore are always so good to us, and we're just excited to be able to share that with folks. It was brought to us by this really lovely human being, just an incredible man and an even prettier beauty queen, Harris Van Cleef. And we've just been really excited to kick
Mm.
this off every year, a little bit of his brainchild. And then our annual gala, which we have not had in some time for so many different reasons as the world has changed since I've been here in the 4 years. It's called Voices. So Voices is actually going to take place. I already have dates for these wonderful events. Voice is going to take place at Colony Club Thursday, September 26th next year. And that's our annual gala. We usually have some incredible talent, some awesome comedy, and we just use it as a time to be thankful and celebrate our incredible young people and the wonderful people that support us and our beautiful staff that work to get this work done every day. And as far as Catfight, that's going to be at the Fillmore Friday, June 14th, 7:30. Be there with bells on and maybe a ton of pride colors.
Now these events are all open to the public as well.
Yes, you'll be able to buy tickets in the coming months right on our website, but also it's also really great to keep in touch with us on our social media. We've got an Instagram, we've got a LinkedIn, we've got a Facebook. All you have to type is Ruth Ellis Center, and we'll be there.
Now, one of the things those are two of the bigger events planned for next year. But
Mhm,
when I was over in your office, I
mhm.
noticed that people come in on a regular basis. And for people that are interested in supporting Ruth Ellis Center and the mission of your organization, how can they find out more and how can they get involved?
There's so many ways. I think the easiest way, aside from joining our social media and seeing what the haps is, getting on our mailing list or shooting us a quick email at info@ruthelliscenter.org. We often have a lot of volunteer opportunities. Definitely, we try to do a ton or as many beautification projects as we can in the warmer months. As the cold has set upon us, happy winter to all, because it's almost the first day of winter. Winter solstice is going to start soon. Um, the holidays bring a lot of volunteer opportunities. Actually, during Thanksgiving, my incredible team, Aisha Schultz-Bradlin, who's been here on and off since like 2016, Christina, who transitioned from one of our beautiful young people into this incredible staff member, is I have the great honor of working with them in the capacity of senior development associate and community engagement manager. They have worked tirelessly this holiday season. Thanksgiving was full of holiday food boxes for close to 30 to 35 families and young people. We had holiday dinner scheduled, had an entire Thanksgiving party. And we needed a ton of volunteers to help us beautify the space, helping us cook the food. And now that Christmas is upon us and Hanukkah just finished, I have an office that is overflowing with presents, overflowing. And this abundance was really brought to us by the incredible donors and supporters that we have, but also volunteers who just asked, how can I help? Because one of our unanticipated but greatest fortunes with one of our housing programs over at Claremont, we are now also taking care of a baker's dozen of children. All of them are under the age of 3, and we even have one incoming. So we wanted to ensure that their parents could give them the best possible Christmas. I can't even walk in my office suite here because it is overflowing with abundance of not only toys and clothes, but also some of those really essential items that you need for littles, like diapers and wipes and body wash. And it's all thanks to the incredible generosity and kindness of many of our volunteers that came. Prism's Men Chorus, oh my goodness, Comerica Bank was here, Bank of America, Ernst and Young have done some incredible work helping us get this space together. I mean, the list really goes on, but we have several opportunities for both individuals and corporate groups, particularly employee and business resource groups, to really sort of get involved with what the center's all about.
Well, we only have a little bit of time left, and we could go on and on with all
We
of this,
could,
but
John, especially the two of us. We cut up. We cut up.
And I am so lucky to have been invited in and to see the new center in Claremont. I wanted to touch base a little bit on that because can you describe it from the moment you walk through the door to what you experience on that first floor and above?
Oh, goodness. Well, I mean, really, even before you walk into the door,
Oh, I
yeah,
forgot. Yeah.
right? Like, as you're coming down Woodward and, towards downtown, and you look to your right, you're met with just a plethora of beautiful colors. And as your mind begins to sort through these beautiful colors, you see the face of a woman, and a woman whose identity is sort of laid bare. It becomes very clear very early on that you're looking at what might be an LGBTQ icon, and that's the only way really to describe Ruth Ellis. She was incredibly important to the women's community in Michigan, um, as well as our community, particularly in this region. Um, and as you get closer on the other side, so sort of to the right of this beautiful mural of her, which depicts many different versions of her, you're met with some of her favorite sayings, where she's telling the young people and the people of our community and anyone who has something to say, tell your story. Just keep living. And particularly in times like these, I think those are incredibly poignant and sort of sometimes people need to be reminded that if you've got something important to say, take the time. Like, there are people who want to hear this message be told. Um, and then you get to walk into the building. And yes, you're met with a couple of spaces that need a lot of key fobs. Because we're very, very serious when it comes to the safety and security of our staff and our young people. But as you get beyond the lobby a little bit, you're adorned by there's this gorgeous mural. It's called Diamond Life. and you see these beautiful portraits of all of these different young people. Now, I have the great fortune of knowing who they are. They're some of our residents. So often, people of our community, and that's the LGBTQ community, and particularly our youth and Black and brown and indigenous people of color who have the intersection of being a part of the LGBTQ identity as well, um, don't often see spaces where they're celebrated. And so it was important for us that when our young people came home, one of the first things they get to look at is something beautiful. And it just so happens that that something beautiful, with its abundance of color, done by the same artist as the Ruth Ellis mural outside, Ijana Cortez, a wonderful human being who's also a part of our community. Um, they get to see themselves as just as beautiful as we think they are. Um, and it just kind of gives you a little bit of a warm feeling. I always feel really warm when I walk into that space. There we have some office space as well as residences. So just on the first floor, the institute and the housing office is housed in that environment. And as you walk into the institute, you'll never have known that the LGBTQ community and everybody in the plus have there's many different flags identifying the many different sectors within our community. And each one of them is not only a great cause for conversation, but it's just beautiful knowing that there's such abundance in our community, and there really is a space for everyone, everyone that's affirming. And then as you go a little further into the space, um, you get to see our health and wellness center. We have two. At the Claremont Center, that's run by Henry Ford Health's incredible infectious disease and family medicine departments. And as soon as you walk in, you're met with affirmations, lots of different colors, lots of things saying you are welcome here and you belong, literally. There are paintings that will say or have that kind of messaging, but also just the variety of ways that someone in our community can present is featured in a lot of the different artwork that's present. Can you imagine artwork in a medical suite? There's so very much, um, but it's really sort of a testament to what is valued here at the organization, which is lots of color, anything that gives sort of the youthful vibe, because not only do we work with young people, a lot of what we do is led by our young people. We let them tell us what their needs are, and we do our best to meet their needs and maybe then some. But then as you reach the end of the hallway, there's a beautiful art studio where art therapy and really magic happens. And it's a really wonderful space, and I love sharing with people.
Nazarina, thank you for the overview of Ruth Ellis. One last thing I
Yeah.
got to say is you are willing to go out and talk about Ruth Ellis Center. You go on
All
the
the
road.
time.
And so if people want to get a hold of you and find out more and have you come to their organization to tell them
Oh,
that there
yeah.
is this special place, how do we do that?
Oh, I mean, it's easy. You can email info@ruthelliscenter.org and make a request. I actually follow that inbox and I monitor it as much as I can. We also have another easy email address, development, which is my department's at ruthelliscenter.org. If you ever have a request, you'd like me to come hang out, you'd like to visit the center, or just learn about the different ways that you may be able to part with our organization, that's probably the easiest way to get in touch with us. But we're also available on social media. We have Facebook, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Instagram, Ruth Ellis Center, and we'll be there.
All right, my last question.
Okay.
What's the quote that's on the mural on the side of the Claremont building from Ruth Ellis again?
Oh, well, tell your story is one of my favorites. And another one is, because there are quite a few, just keep living.
Now, those sound like universal quotes to
Oh,
me.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Huh.
Speak up and
Amazing,
tell
isn't
your
it?
story. I love it. I mean, she was ahead of her time. And yeah, here, those quotes, gospel.
Hmm. Well, you live it. I appreciate it. I took the tour. I was changed as a result of the tour. I was not expecting everything that I saw, and it's amazing that there is a place that's as special as this. And thank you. And oh, during the holiday season, when people want to give back to a place that gives back on a daily basis, Ruth Ellis would be a good place to give.
Oh,
That was a pitch.
thank you, John. That's very sweet. Yes, it is end of year, and we are taking end of year donations to be able to continue on this work for as long as we're needed and
Oh,
wanted.
you're always needed. And the other thing
Thank
is you give so much more. And I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show. And we're not done. We're going to come back at some point because we got to follow the 25th anniversary this next year.
you. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.